Okay, so let's talk about lists, right? So what are lists? So lists are um, they are ordered collection or an array like object, right? Array like object, which can hold multiple data types, right? So, for example, to create a list, all you just need to do is you just put the square bracket, and inside which you can put your favorite objects. So one, two, these are numbers, and now let's just do strings. Um, this one, or other data types that you can know that you know about already, like floats, floating points, etc. So whatever is that you know. So booleans, it's a true is a boolean, false is a boolean. We can input that, and of course it's a good practice. Like it's not necessary, but yeah, this looks good. And maybe you want to assign a name. So my list, right? Um, so now this is good. Now if you just print my list, right? It will print out. And see if I had no space, still the output will be proper, with spacing when it prints out. So it doesn't matter if you give space or not. It's just there's nothing like you have to give a space, but just there should be a comma, right? That's the only requirement. Okay, so that's my list. And now, as with string, you can access elements inside list. So list, the first element, which is indexed 0, is 1. And then my list 2 is this one, the string 1, etc. And you can access multiple elements, or basically you can do the slicing as with strings. So basically my list 0 till, let's say, 3, you have 1, 2, and the string 1, which is basically at index 2. So how do I know the index? So index will be my list dot index 1. So index 1 is 2. There's the same thing with string as well. So if you have a string, let's say dot index of r, right? So it will give me the index. So dot index is something which you can use to access the index of an element, right? Okay, so that's good. Now let's do one thing. Let's try to you know play around with slicing a little bit. So my list of let's try to access elements. So to access the whole thing, you just do this, or even without anything, it will work. Without, of course, this is the same result. But if you want, till the end, but with a step of size 2, and it will do this. Just like in strings, you can access, with a step of 2. So 1, and then uh, skip this, and then the second one is the string 1, and then 1, 2. So the second one is here, 1, 2, and here. So that's slicing. Now reversing the string. So you start from the last one. So how do you access the last element? Just like in strings, you just do the -1 and my list, starting from the last one. The whole thing in the negative direction is going to give me the reversed list. But if you try to access the original list, it will remain the same, right? So if you want to tamper the original list, what you just need to do is my list dot reverse. And now if you try to print out the my list, it's reversed right now. It's being reversed forever. Okay. So that command will just reverse it. Okay. And I talked about how to find an index of an element inside the list. And another thing, a cool thing that you can do is, you can append things. So you can append new objects inside a list. So my list dot append. Let's say I want to append. Okay, let's start with a meaningful list of countries, right? So India, China, um, USA, Russia, right? Now, if you want to, so this is a list, it's a country list. And now, if you want a country dot append, you want to append, let's say, Japan. Now, so basically, dot append command is to, you know, put in new objects, to plug in new objects into our list. So if you just access country list this time, you will have the new entry of Japan here. So that's one thing that you can do with the list. So you can basically append anything. You can basically append any data type. So append 1, 2, 3, and it will work. Okay. So you have 1, 2, 3 here. So now what you can do is, so we have discussed what is a list, right? So, and I told you that lists can hold multiple data types. So in particular, it can hold another list. So for example, country.append, you want to append this particular list. I don't know, Arctic. Okay. And now if you try to access the country here, you will have another object which is a list of Africa and Arctic, right? So you can basically, inside a list, you can have another list, and you can append, right? You can append any data type, any object, right? Okay, so that's one thing. And again, as I mentioned before with variables, now if you try to access the ID of country, right, it's this. But if I point country to another variable and then try to print ID of country, it will be different. So it has changed because it's pointing to a new object, right? Okay, that is all about indexing and appending. Now another thing that is interesting here is that if you use another name, for example, country2 is equal to country, right? Okay, so I have changed country2. So let me use my original list here. Copy, and then Control Shift Enter, and then if you say country2 is equal to country, then so now your country2, if you try to print country2, it will be the same list. Okay, now if I tamper with country2, say country2 dot append append South Korea, if I do this, and if I, of course, country2 will have okay, SOUTH. Yeah, so it has appended a new one. So I will tell you how to, so it's needed that I remove this one, right? So I will tell you how to remove it. But as you can see, in country2, there are 2 entries, right? But now how about if I access country well, it will be the same list, right? It will be the same list as country 2. That is because your country 2 and country 1, they are the same. They are pointing to the same object, which is basically it was this object, and then I appended South Korea, right? Initially, I had made a mistake. Initially, I made a spelling mistake, and then I again appended South Korea here. So that means your country 2 and country both, uh, both are affected because of this pending on country 2, because both of them are pointing to the same object. So it's not that there's something happening to the variables, but the object is being changed. So because these two variables were pointing to the same object, so they are reflecting the change, right? They're reflecting the same object. Now I want to not have this change, right? Or I want to create a list which is not tampered, right? For example, if I want my country to have the same list as before, right? I want to have a country list as same list as before, but I want it to be untampered. So what you do is country is equal to, or basically let's say country 2 is country dot copy, right? So now if I try to access country 2, of course country was this list, right? And now I have country 2 is not basically is not equal to country, but it's a copy of that country, right? So now what's happening is country 2 is a different object. So you can check this. So ID of country, let's print this, and then print ID of country 2. See, both of them will be different because they are different objects now, but it's the same list, but it's those two are different, pointing to different locations, right? It's different. Okay. Right. So now the point is, if I try to make some changes to country 2, for example, country 2 dot append, let's add in a new country. Let's say let's add in just some random, so country 2 dot append Mexico, and then if I try to access country 2, of course there is Mexico here, but if I try to print country, well, it is unchanged, right? It's untampered, right? So this is because country 2 was a copy of country, but it was a different thing. It was pointing to a different memory location, and so I changed country 2, and so it's not reflected in country, right? So this is something very useful. So country.copy or list.copy is something which can come in real handy. Now, another thing that I want to talk about is, inserting an object at a particular index, right? So, for example, here country. Let's say you want to insert at the first location instead of China. You want to replace it with something else. So country dot insert, and so at 1 you want to insert, let's say, I don't know, KL, something like that. Okay. And then if you just print country here, you see at the first location there is KL, but this entry has moved one step to the right. Right now it has become 2. Okay, so this is basically inserting. So you can insert at any point, at any index that you want. If you want to insert at the end, all you just need to do is you don't need to count anything. You just put a large number which should be bigger than the length of the list, or equal to the length of the list. Both will work, and insert, in something like this, country. I will do this. So just to demonstrate, so 10, I think 8 will also work, right? It's okay, so what happened was that it has indeed inserted at the end point, but because the country already had in, the string in, now when I did this again, it inserted one more entry, right? So yeah, so basically the point is anything, any large number. So now it will insert one more entry here, right? So this is basically inserting, right? This is all about inserting. And we saw what's an append, and then there's insert. Okay, so but you can see here that with strings we cannot tamper with strings because they are immutable. But with lists you can insert, you can change the list, right? You can remove a list, and so you can do things with that. So they are mutable objects. Another thing about lists is that country dot something called as extend, right? You want to extend the list further. So right now our country is country is this. You want to extend it further, country dot extend with let's say LA, New York, some random names, New York, Ohio, etc. Okay, so you want to extend it. Of course they are not countries, right? But anyway, so country, now you can see it has extended, the list has extended. Now what's the difference between append and extend? So append is that you will insert a new object, which is basically a new list inside the list. But extend is basically you want to extend the original list by including these three elements or objects as well, right? So that's the difference. So this is extending, the previous one was appending, right? Okay, so this is it, and so that's the difference between append and extend. Now what I want to discuss about is remove, right? So I wanted to remove one of these entries, right? So what you do is country dot, there's something called as remove, right? You can remove I guess let's try with in. Let's see if it works. It has worked. So now if I try to access country here, it will be one in this way. So again, you can remove one more in, and then country. So again, it has removed. So this is basically remove, but let's just test remove. Let's try to plug in index. So 1, so it will say x not in the list. So basically when you remove, you have to put in the object, right? You cannot give the index, right? Just like insert, when you do insert, you have to insert at this particular index this particular object. So yeah, so I mean here you have to specify the object, right, that you want to remove, right? But there's something called as pop. So country dot pop, let's say this time you can pop the 0th one. So at the zeroth index you had India, so it is popped out. Now when you do country, well, you have without the first index, so the first index was popped out, and you have the remaining list, right? So this is another thing. So if you want to pop the zeroth element, so by index you want to remove it, then you use the pop thing, pop command, right? But if you want to specifically remove an object, you just put that object, and then it will do the remove thing, right? Okay, so that's one thing I wanted to discuss. And then another thing is, let's print out country. So here's the country, and then country of, let's say, 1, 2, and 3. Here, 1 till 3, um, right? So basically, it's if I have to include 3 as well, then I will need to plug in 4. So 1 till 4, I want this to be you know um, something. So if I say SLO, let's see what happens here. So country. So okay, so I'm saying country from 1, 2, and then 3 is basically the string. So what is going to happen here is at 1 it will be S, and then L, and then 0, right? So this is going to happen here. So basically this command will insert each and every string. It will access the each character and then plug it into the corresponding index, right? So instead, let's see, country 1 is to 4. If I had just SL and then do the country again, you can see here again, it's doing the same thing, but um, so KL and then S and then L, but then the O is gone, right? The O is gone, and then the rest is the same. So basically, I'm saying a country 1 till till the third index. So 1, 2, 3, it should be SL. So it will access each and every character alphabet, and then it will replace it. But this time O is gone, right? If I had some other, let's say U, then there will be U, right? So that's basic thing with this particular command equal to, or maybe you want to 1 till 3, you want to replace it with specific objects. So you can say you know China, um, India, and whatever. Okay. Country. So as you can see, it has replaced it back, right? Uh, you have replaced it with new objects, right? New entries, new strings. So China, India, and USA is being replaced at 1 till 3, right? That's something you can do, of course. And then okay, so another thing is the count. So if you want to count a specific object, let's say, how many entries are there of this particular string? So it's just one, right? So if I had multiple, um, you know, China, and then China, and then US, and then whatever KL and something something. Um, so now if you try to country dot count China, and then it will be so I did make a mistake here, I guess. Okay, so this should be caps. It will show me 2, right? So these two objects are the same, so it will count. So in a list, this command will count the number of inputs, now count the number of entries in a list. Well, when I was discussing string, I guess I did not mention this. So you can do the same thing, strin, let's say nn gg, so dot count g, so it will count to the same string dot count. Let's say you want to count um, let's say q, how many entries of q are there. Okay, so it should be okay, 0. So there are no entries, no q alphabet in this string, right? So that's why it's a 0. So this is again a counting. So you can count the number of objects inside a list, and also it's the same thing for the string as well, right? So that's it for lists. Of course, I discussed many things like count, pop, append, extend, etc. And slicing, list slicing. For strings also it can be done. So I guess that's it for lists till now. Of course, there's something called as list comprehension, but I guess this is something which I'll do after I discuss for loops and while loops. So yeah, so I'll do that later. So for now, this is good, and I'll see you next time.